One of the most important things that individuals can do is to influence their elected leaders that we need to do much, much more than reduce or eliminate fossil fuel emissions. We need to implement emergency cooling immediately. And the best way to do that to start is to temporarily rescind sulfur limitation rules in fossil fuels so we can start burning those sulfur again and creating global cooling sulfate pollutants that can really, really make an impact and buy time so that we can remove the carbon from the sky with technologies related to beer. Once we've got this time, then we can fulfill our sustainable future. We can't do it all with fossil fuel elimination. We've got to do more because first we have to cool our climate to keep our Earth systems from completing the collapses that they've already begun.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition, another exciting edition. I know I say that every time, but I get so excited by the people that I interview. What a privilege. I'm going to say hello to an old friend, Bruce Melton. His name is Melton, and he is a climate change genius. Kind of a geek. I mean, in terms of knowing math and science details that most people didn't even know existed. And yeah, he's been on the beat. He's an environmental engineer. He's an author. He's a filmmaker. He's a musician. He's in a group that I said should be called the Meltons. Melt on, rock on. And he is on his way down the eastern seaboard as part of a project to film the damage from climate change, some of the impacts. And I know you've been all over the United States for this film, Climate Change in America. And tell us where you are now and what you are showing us and how it might look different than it did, let's say, 10 years ago.
This is the community of Buxton on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I think it's Ocracoke Island, about halfway down the Outer Banks. And what we're looking at used to be a bunch of mostly vacation homes. In the last 4 weeks, we've had 2 hurricanes go by, no strikes, but 2 hurricanes go by in the Atlantic. We've had the peak of the king tide, and we've had a nor'easter, a big nor'easter. And all this stuff has created a lot of erosion. We've lost 9 beach homes right here in the last 4 weeks. And further up the beach at another community called Rodan, they've lost a few more. I can't remember exactly how many. And since 2020, there's been 21 of these beach houses have gone down. It's climate change. These areas are prone to erosion. But recently, in the last 10 years, say, and especially the last 5 years, the erosion has gotten worse and they're losing more and more houses. Just since 2020, 21 homes have gone down.
My goodness. Well, they're up on stilts. Is that a new repair kind of thing? Was that all on stilts?
No, this is how the house is. We'll see here.
Yep.
There's one. If I don't get too much glare, here's one right back over here on stilts. This is how they build these things because of hurricanes.
Okay.
And so what's going on is 20 years ago, out in front of these houses right here, there was at least 100 yards of beach. In front of these houses over here, there was a whole nother row out here. That's where the 9 are gone. These guys, right here, they're not long for this world. It may be this year, winter's just starting. Winter's really the erosion season. And you can see way on down here, there's quite a few more. This is a big deal. And we're here for Climate Change Across America. This is our second film since 2018, 150,000 miles of driving across North America, looking mostly at natural systems collapses. But whenever there's a natural disaster, we're there too. Last year, we saw Helene in Asheville, North Carolina, after the hurricane. This May, we were at the flood tragedies in Central Texas, where so many people died, and the young girls at the summer camp lost their lives.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I know you were looking at pine beetle nut damage for a while. What part of the country was that, and how bad was it?
The pine beetle, that's been one of our biggest focus areas since 2007, 2008, 2009, since the pine beetle really got bad across the West. Up until last year, we focused mostly on the West. We did one big film from Brownsville to the Arctic Circle in Alaska. Now we're working on our second film on climate change across America. And we've been all across New England and down here to the Outer Banks and in the Smokies. 3 trips in the last 2 years. When we finish this trip, it'll be 20,000 miles in the last 2 years. What we're finding is way ahead of the academic literature. The forests are suffering accelerated mortality, and it's coming from drought stress. The drought is unprecedented. It's the worst drought that New England has ever seen. The temperatures are as warm or record-breaking temperatures as warm as it's ever been. The rivers, I tell people the rivers in New England, they look like rivers in Texas. You can lay down in them and hardly get wet. It's really a drought. The fall color was not very good this year because of the drought. The leaves are just kind of turning lime green and falling off. But we're finding a lot more forest mortality because of this water stress. And there's emerald ash borer. There's Asiatic longhorn borer. There's the woolly adelgid, the hemlock woolly adelgid. All these insects, the red pine scale, all these insects are taking advantage of the stressed trees, and they're creating mortality that is far ahead of what the academic literature is talking about and what the popular press is talking about. So we've been covering that now for the last 2 years for our next film on climate change across America.
Wow. Well, we were just in Italy last month for a wedding, and driving through Puglia, the driver pointed out all these dead olive trees, and there's
I've heard about the olives.
if not tens of thousands. And it was a virus that came in and it attacked the trees, and they've got to cut them all down. And olive oil, of course, is a major export for Italy. Luckily, it seems to be contained to the southern part. Puglia is in the heel of the boot, so it just goes a little bit up above the heel. But we're talking miles and miles and miles, or kilometers in Italy, of dead trees, olive oil. And it's so sad. And it happened so quickly. They couldn't prepare. They couldn't respond fast enough. And this is exactly what you're documenting.
A biologist that works for the State Park Service in the Adirondacks told us there's a new nematode, or it's not really new, but it's really increased in occurrence. And they said it's a beach nematode. And they said it's plausible it's going to take out the beaches. Local extinction, and possibly like the chestnuts. It's quite plausible that the tree is going to go extinct or functional extinction, like the chestnuts have from chestnut blight. And like I've also been told that by other biologists about the ash trees from the emerald ash borer and the Asiatic longhorn borer. This is serious. This is real. It's changing the composition of our forest. It's causing our forest to flip from carbon sequestration, where they store and absorb carbon, to emitting carbon. And that's very serious. Our Earth systems hold sometimes something like 5 times more carbon that is at risk of being emitted because of these failures of our Earth systems than is in our entire atmosphere. Not just what the humans have added to the atmosphere, but all of the carbon in the atmosphere. This is very serious.
What about the Amazon rainforest? We're hearing that that's reaching a tipping point.
The Amazon has flipped. It's past a tipping point. The reason that we're hearing that it's reaching a tipping point is because science must be certain. We don't know now for absolutely positively certain that the Amazon is not going to flip back for a little while before it flips back to emitting carbon again. But right now, on average, for about the last 10 years, it's been emitting 1 gigaton of carbon per year. And that's just the Amazon. Other tropical forests across the globe are very likely behaving similarly. I've been told this by the scientists. I'm not interpreting this. And it's just started. And the Amazon has about 400 gigatons of carbon that's at risk of being emitted. Humans emit 50 gigatons a year. That's just the Amazon with 400 gigatons. This is a big issue.
Of course, the same thing's happening with permafrost, the permanent frost that's no longer permanent. And as that melts.
Permafrost too. Also, remember, these are long-term averages. Permafrost, 2.3 gigatons of emissions a year for a 20-year average. We're in a king tide. We're still in the king tide. And there's likely to be overwash. We were driving through water on Highway 12 coming down from Nags Head. We're going back to Nags Head tonight. Undoubtedly, the water will be deeper. Yay! Permafrost.
Let me ask you something, Ruth. Oh, you want
to go ahead? I'm listening.
Okay. I'm wondering, Are people talking about climate change where you're visiting?
A lot. Very few. Literally, where we go, we're always looking at something where people their mouths are falling open and saying, "Why are all these trees dead?" We're seeing them all along the highway, and here with all these houses falling into the ocean, the locals. I search out the locals, and people have been there all their lives, or been here for 30 or 40 years. There used to be 100 yards of beach in front of these beach houses right here.
Bruce, how
They
can
know
they
it.
keep
They know
changing?
it's climate change. They're all telling me that the deniers that say that it's not climate change. What?
Come on down,
Everybody.
bring them down there. I mean, it's
That's right.
things are happening so fast. How can this be when you look at geological time in our lifetimes, in a fraction of our
It,
lifetimes, a section of our
it
lifetime?
is.
We're about the same age. This is all unfolding. I mean, I don't want to say who could have foreseen it because scientists, environmentalists have been shouting about it for at least a couple of decades. And we still have dinosaurs in office, but don't
The
let's
deniers. I love your language, Bets.
no, we gotta make it a little funny so we don't just cry. Okay, I want to get on to a couple of things. First of all, the
Okay.
Tennessee floods. I've talked about it with a couple of other guests, but having just moved from Hill Country, about an hour from Kerrville, having had a daughter who went away to sleepaway camp from the age of 9, this one just is it's haunting me.
Oh,
It should haunt everybody. And I'm wondering, I know we know it was rare, but we also know that river is subjected to flash flooding. But do you think that the camp, people who run the camp and local officials are aware that this is not yesterday's weather patterns, that whatever they're predicting, you got to expect it to be more extreme? Or has that word not gotten down? How much of that is because they're in a Republican state where they won't talk about climate change? Greg Abbott won't let there be anything like Trump, written in government papers about climate change. How much of this is an awareness problem?
there's a lot of non-spoken denial going on. Kerrville, the flood tragedies in both Kerrville and Jonestown, just to the northwest of Austin instead of the southwest of Austin. Non-spoken denial. They're simply reacting to the current tragedies and trying to determine strategies that if or when these tragedies recur, because that is something we do have these kind of tragedies in Central Texas, the flash flood capital of the world, they say. They're trying to determine strategies to prevent the extreme loss of life that we had, which is, yay, good. But the whole issue is our climate has just started to change. The flood tragedies that we have just experienced, a 2,000-year flood in Kerrville, a 3,000-year flood in Jonestown, just northwest of Austin. These are little baby climate disasters because our climate has just begun to change. We're going to see much, much larger disasters, and we need to prepare for those. And what the officials are doing in Texas and, almost everywhere is they're preparing for the existing 100-year event. The 100-year event in Texas, as per NOAA, is now happening 4 times more often than it was. And that NOAA's numbers, these are rainfall events, NOAA's numbers are extremely understated because of different factors with the way the science is evaluated and because of different issues with the way that we understand the frequency of these events and how fast climate change is actually changing. We're doing good in that we're trying to make our responses more robust, but we've really got to be looking at extremes that are 10 times, maybe more extreme than what we've already experienced.
And of course, the NOAA cutbacks, so we're going to NOAA less, don't help.
EPA research, the list is horrible.
Let me ask you, so we don't go off into the political, because God knows I could talk about that all day. Sure you can too. People rebuilding, whether it's in fire zones, on the coast, from floods, from hurricanes, I always shudder to think, do they realize that it's just going to keep coming back worse? How much can they, brace these new homes, buildings, for with that in mind? Or do they really just move inland, move out of fire zones, all these things that we're seeing, to the extreme? Should people be rebuilding right there?
That's really a wicked problem. Is a problem without an answer. The solution is to restore our climate as fast as we can. If we don't restore it, we risk our Earth system collapses becoming irreversible. And we don't even want to think about what that means.
And we just
Now,
saw
as far as
sorry, in the tipping point of the ocean, I want to hear what you think about that with the coral die-off, but I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
the adaptation thing, there are things we can do to adapt. Fire is easier than this erosion problem. With fire, we create a defensible space. The Firewires program, for viewers out there, if you got any questions about adapting to fire, making your home place, your business safer, look at Firewise on the internet. This is a very good program that teaches us how to reduce risk from wildfire. Now, this kind of thing that we're looking at here, Mother Nature is an angry beast. She is very, very hard to control. This is one of her hardest. Water has 90 times more power than air. The waves, the water currents, it is extremely strong. Very little we can do. Here, let me show you one thing. Right down here, let's see if we can see this. In front of this house, right here, there are some giant sandbags. Those giant sandbags are a stopgap. They have saved one house, the blue one. Yeah, it's the blue one. They've saved that blue house from this storm. And, we've had 2 hurricanes pass by on the Atlantic, and we've had a big nor'easter on top of a king tide. It saved it from this one event, but the winter is just starting. And we don't know what's going to happen. It's likely that even major actions like this are not going to be enough to make a real difference in timeframes that matter. So we can adapt, but only so much. The next thing we do is retreat. And retreat is going to be very costly. It's going to be very emotionally expensive to, go back to the costly thing and buy out. Retreat is economically as well as emotionally very taxing, because we've got to buy all these places to move these people out. But us, citizens, our tax dollars have to help our communities retreat. It's back to the wicked problem again. How much money is it going to take? Here, let me do a fast pan. How much money is it going to take to retreat, for all these people to retreat? The East Coast, all the way to Brownsville, sea level rise is 3 times the global average, 10 millimeters per year. That's 2 pennies, 3 pennies. Across the globe, it's 3.5 to 4 millimeters per year. This is a number of different scientific reasons why it's happening, but it's happening. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. The fact is that we have to start restoring as fast as we can, because it will only get worse non-linearly, the way physics work. It doesn't get a little bit worse with a little bit of warming. It gets a lot worse. That's a nonlinear response.
I recall in a prior interview a few years ago, I think it was you, I asked you about, concerns about geoengineering, because I know you feel that we have to take measures to get some carbon out of the atmosphere. And you said, I believe, hey, we've had a major, geoengineering experiment with humans and climate change. We didn't intend to do this.
Exactly.
Now we need to fix what we did unintentionally.
Exactly.
How do we do it?
Let me see if I can shorten my beer pitch. We can save humanity from climate change with beer. In the 19th century, the King of Bavaria prohibited the brewing of beer in the warm season because of a bacteria that fouled the beer. Prohibited it. In Bavaria, you couldn't brew beer in the warm season. Along comes a guy named Charles Lind. He invented one of the most important refrigeration technologies. It's a very high pressure, very cold temperature technology that saved the beer industry in Bavaria in the 19th century. Then comes Guinness beer. They realized that Charles Lind's high pressure refrigeration technology could liquefy air. And when you liquefy air, you can distill carbon dioxide out of it, just like you distill alcohol out of mash. They asked Charles Lind to create a process from his high pressure, ultra cold temperature pressurization process that would capture the carbon dioxide coming off of their brewing vats, concentrate it so they could sell it as an industrial feedstock in the new industrializing world of the late 19th century and the late 1800s. This was 1892, I believe, that Guinness contracted with Charles Lind to do this. Today, the Lind Air Products Corporation is the largest air distillation corporation in the world that supplies oxygen, nitrogen, argon, helium, hydrogen, everything you can find in air. You can liquefy air and distill all those things out and sell it as industrial feedstock, just as Charles Lynn did for Guinness in the late 19th century. This is one example of one process that's 100 years old that we can take carbon dioxide out of the air with, and we put it underground where it's safe. You put it 1,000 feet underground with the right geology, with the right engineers, just like oil has been stored underground for millions of years. You put the carbon dioxide down there, it's safe, and it mineralizes. It goes into solution in salt water, and it mineralizes. It forms solids that are no longer pressure. That's no longer carbon dioxide pressure. So there's no risk of it leaking out. So and that's just one. The beer thing is just one process. There's two others: carbon dioxide, the lime potash process, and amines, which is one of the most important chemicals in all of industry today. The processes are mature, over 100 years old, and the components of these processes are even more widespread than these three processes themselves. There's a lot of good news. We can do this. It's going to cost money. It's not going to be near as expensive as we think, though. And we've got the IRS 45Q carbon sequestration incentive that pays $85 a ton to capture carbon dioxide and put it and use it for enhanced oil recovery, which you just make the process a little bigger to deal with the carbon emitted from burning the oil that's been removed with enhancement, or $185 just to put it in the ground permanently where it's safe. $185 a ton, which is 2 to 3 times more than it costs to mine the carbon dioxide. So there's a big profit incentive. Occidental Chemicals has one process, 500,000 tons per year in the Permian Basin in Texas that was supposed to come online in September, third quarter of this year. I'm pretty sure it's operational now. First phase. Oxy has 4 more processes that should be online, 500,000 tons per year or more by 2030. All total, there's about 200 1 million ton per year processes by different organizations across the world that have been committed under this IRS 45Q tax incentive that is not at risk, has already been shown to be not at risk from our current administration destroying this incentive, because it's money to big business from us, their favorite kind of money, to remove carbon from the atmosphere and reduce the existing warming, not future warming. That's the most important part, is reducing the existing warming so that we can allow our Earth systems to self-restore.
And I know that it's being called climate restoration, maybe more than geoengineering. Is that the way we have to go?
Much better term. You said it a minute ago. Geoengineering is the nasty thing we've done to our planet that's caused global warming. Carbon removal is climate pollution treatment. We do need to artificially cool the climate rapidly, because it's going to take decades to remove all of the climate pollutions we've been putting up there over the last 200 years. We can temporarily cool our planet 2 degrees centigrade by pausing sulfur limit rules and shipping fuels. The International Maritime Organization just completed new rules to almost eliminate naturally occurring sulfur in shipping fuels. When you burn sulfur, sulfur is naturally occurring in all fossil fuels. When you burn sulfur, it creates sulfates in our atmosphere. Those sulfates are global cooling pollutants. The sulfates that we've been emitting from burning sulfur, naturally occurring sulfur, in all of our fossil fuels already have covered up half of warming that should have been realized. And when the International Maritime Organization implemented these new rules, they were so meaningful to global cooling pollutants because ships burn the dirtiest fuel that has the most sulfur in it. When you take that sulfur out of ship fuels, in 2023 and 2024, our climate jumped, our warming jumped 2 degrees, 0.2 of a degree centigrade, an absolutely unprecedented, very, very short-term jump in temperature, and has been blamed on the International Maritime Organization's sulfur limits in their fuels. If we can just get the IMO, International Maritime Organization, to rescind these rules, we've got temporarily, because these sulfates, they're very important air pollution that are responsible for 7 to 8 million deaths per year from respiratory ailments. That's why the IMO reduced sulfur. The Western nations have reduced sulfur in their fossil fuels beginning in the 1970s. China and India over the last 10 years have just started reducing. Their reduction of sulfur is responsible too. So without even launching any true geoengineering, like blocking the sun with shades or with sulfur, other sulfur emissions from airplanes or rockets or balloons or whatever crazy stuff you got going on, just by temporarily pausing these sulfur rules, we may kill millions of people, but it's a risk analysis.
Wow.
If we don't halt the warming or reverse it within a couple of decades, our Earth systems are going to collapse, are going to complete their collapses that they've already started.
Let me ask you something. Is there like a overarching climate restoration committee for the country? I hear all these great, some seem like wild ideas, way too, let's just call it geoengineering for short-terming it. Where's the funding going to come from? How long is it going to take? Who's deciding which one of these technologies should be tried first? How many should we be doing at once? Because everything I just heard on this global warming heating emergency webinar that you were part of planning, but not on because you're traveling, all these great ideas, but they're all saying it's going to take so much time. They've got to raise the money, then they've got prototype, then they've got to test it. And we don't have that kind of time. So is there a king of climate restoration somewhere judging each of these technologies and deciding with, lots of documentation and data, and you should be king of that, actually, Bruce.
Unfortunately, the bad answer is no. The good answer is there are a number of unofficial ad hoc groups that have formed that are addressing this exact problem. The Healthy Planet Action Coalition, healthyplanetaction.org, is one that just put on a major international climate restoration conference yesterday and today. It's looking at the exact questions you asked. What processes do we need to implement? How quickly and in what order? One of the most important things that individuals can do is to support carbon dioxide removal, greenhouse gas removal is more like it, because we got methane up there, we got nitrous oxide up there, we got cooling chemicals up there that we use as refrigerants. One of the most important things that individuals can do is to influence their elected leaders that we need to do much, much more than reduce or eliminate fossil fuel emissions. We need to implement emergency cooling immediately. And the best way to do that to start is to temporarily rescind sulfur limitation rules in fossil fuels so we can start burning those sulfur again and creating global cooling sulfate pollutants that can really, really make an impact and buy time so that we can remove the carbon from the sky with technologies related to beer. Once we've got this time, then we can fulfill our sustainable future by creating energy sources. We're on our way with renewable energy, but we've got a lot of work to do. And there's so many, as 40% of industry cannot use renewable energy, electrical energy. They have to have flame energy for oxidation reactions in chemistry. We can't do it all with fossil fuel elimination. We've got to do more.
And we've got to vote for candidates on the local, regional, state, national level, certainly, who understand science. There really should be a quiz before anybody runs for office, because the current administration, I don't need to tell anyone watching, rolling things back, hard-fought progress, much needed, still too little, too late. That's insanity, is it not? It's ecocide, is it not?
It's crazy. The one really good thing about carbon removal and emergency cooling engineering is that it does allow the fossil fuel industry to persist, which is very important. Fossil fuels are responsible for 7 of the 8 billion people on this planet. We can't just automatically stop them. Now, my colleagues at Sierra Club slap me around good when I say things like this, but it's valid. We will reach our sustainable goals, but if we don't cool with emergency action through temporarily rescinding these rules and then removing carbon dioxide from our atmosphere, then all the emissions reductions in the world are for naught. Because first we have to cool our climate to keep our Earth systems from completing the collapses that they've already begun.
Okay, so what is stopping you or anyone from implementing these methods? Because it seems like it needs to be discussed, it needs to be tested. You don't want to do the wrong thing before you roll it out globally. But at the same time, there's only so much time you can talk about it. And is there kind of a funnel? Does it go, these great ideas, does it go somewhere where it can start being implemented? Because otherwise, we're going to be talking about it in 5 years again, still.
It's leadership. Leadership is just standing here going, let's do what the the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is saying, which is to reduce emissions. And in their defense, they do say that we have to remove over 1,000 gigatons of carbon from the atmosphere. But they say we have to do it in the latter half of the century to avoid overshoot of warming above 1.5 C. 1.5 C and we all die. I'm sorry to say that. People really get on me when I get that extreme. 1.5 degrees C, which is as warm or warmer than we are right now. And our Earth systems, these systems that are trying to take me into the ocean right here, right now, they continue their collapse. We've got to cool our planet so that these Earth systems can settle down and these extremes can return to their former rare occurrences. So it's about leadership. If we can get our leaders, starting with the local leaders, working on our state and national leaders and our international leaders to add another task to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change list of stuff to do, one of restoration, one of acknowledging that our systems are in collapse, and that tipping points. What I've been talking about this whole time is tipping points. Your viewers who understand tipping points know Earth system degradation is collapse. Collapse is Earth tipping. It creates enormous natural feedback emissions that are 100 times or more what humans have been emitting. Really, really bad news when that happens. So it's all about our leaders, and what our leaders do is influenced by what we tell them. And that's the biggest thing we can do, is talk with our leaders and tell them we need to restore our current climate culture of 1.5 degrees C warming target is not restoration. That's further warming. We've got to cool it from today so our climate can chill out.
Okay, Bruce Melton, I'm going to have you back another time because you could talk all day, even if I don't say anything. And I usually talk too much, but I'm happy not to. A lot of what you said, honestly, went over my head. But if people want to find out more about your incredible research and your, trips on the road and your films about it, and you get an email from Bruce, it's a paper, okay? It's like, how long did it take him to write this? I at least should read it and try to understand it. You are a walking encyclopedia. If any younger viewers want to know what encyclopedias were, look it up. And we need your brilliance. What is that? I can't quite.
I want to tell everybody.
Okay, there we go.
Climate Discovery, climatediscovery.org, Climate Change Photography, climatechangephoto.org, and healthyplanetaction.org. Those are 3 very important resources that people can use to understand our new world of climate change that's so different than the one we left just a few years ago.
If people want to find out a little bit more about what you were saying, where can they read about that?
It's all on my website and on healthyplanetaction.org. There we have a tremendous amount of evaluation of the different strategies for emergency cooling on healthyplanetaction.org.
Great, thanks.
And Climate Discovery, we look at Earth systems issues as well as carbon dioxide removal and emergency cooling. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you, Bruce. Always a pleasure, always entertaining, and so darn informative. Safe travels to you and your wife.
Thank you.
And get out of the way now. It's coming for you. Stay dry.
I will. Try not to fall in.